Hello everyone, and welcome to One Man Stream. If you've been following the channel for very long, you've seen some tutorials that I've done with some pretty sophisticated layouts, but it didn't start out that way. That is things that have evolved over time. You may have seen my football layout. That's something that I've been working on probably for 4 or 5 years, and I've added some tweaks to it again this season. But how did I get to that point? Well, I got to that point by utilizing just a very few commands, and I'm going to share those commands with you now. And these are the commands that I have in just about every one of my layouts. I have overlay commands, I have set color commands, I have set visible commands, data source commands, and I use the timer command so that things will go on and off in a certain sequence. So that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to kind of double back to the beginning, and it's vMix UTC made easy. That's today's topic on One Man Stream. Today's episode is more geared for the beginner, but I think there's going to be some things in there that even the chiseled vMix UTC veteran will be able to take away from today's tutorial. So to get started, I'm going to bring that opening graphic back up again. And the first command that we're going to follow is the overlay command. And the overlay command allows us to bring, like it says, our overlay channels off and on. And it allows us to designate our inputs to a particular overlay channel. And then it allows us to turn those channels off and on. So what I'm going to show you right now is our demo layout for today, and we're going to cover these 5 topics, and these are the topics that were on that initial overlay. And we're going to cover overlays, we're going to cover set color commands, set visible commands plus timer, and then the last thing we're going to do is data source commands. Data sources is a whole nother subject in itself, and I've done several tutorials on that, but data sources are a way that allows you to bring in large amounts of data sometimes in real time into your production, and you need a way to manipulate those spreadsheets in vMix. So that's where vMix UTC comes in and allows us to move up and down in rows and select particular rows and bring information into our graphics. Now for each one of these headings, I'm also going to have an example. So let's just go ahead and start here with the overlay. So I'm going to click on this button right here that says menu, and it brings in that menu that you saw at the very beginning of the tutorial. Well, how this works is by using an overlay command. Let's click on this cog button right here for menu. And when we click on that cog, you can see it's a button widget. So what did we do? We came down here and we clicked the script button one time, and we added one box here to put some commands in. Now the first time you click that plus button, it's going to come up with number 0, and then the next time you click it, it'll be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and so forth. So what we did is we used the overlay input X command. Well, there are several overlay commands, and when you look through this list, you can see that they're designated by different categories: playlist functions, overlay functions, input functions, title functions, etc. So the one that we're using, or the one that we're looking at with this first topic, is the overlay input function. Well, there's different overlay inputs. You can overlay an input in, you can overlay an input off, you can overlay an input out, and you can zoom a particular overlay input. What this X is referring to is the input that we're using. So on this first one, we're using this input right here, and it's actually something that I made quickly in Canva. And what we're doing is we're just overlaying this input on overlay channel 3. And we're using the command overlay input X. We're not using in or out or on. We're using just overlay input X, and this allows us to use it as a toggle. So I'll come over here one more time. I'll click on the menu button, and you can see where the graphic comes in, and I'm going to click on the menu button again, and you can see where that graphic goes away. Well, what else are we able to do? Well, we're also able to turn our cameras off and on. So when I click this button right here, it's going to turn off our webcam that we have right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click the button, and you can see that I go away, and I'm going to click it again, and you can see where I come back. Well, let's click on this cog. Well, what we're using again is the very same command, overlay input X, and then you have to choose your input. Well, you click the drop down menu here, and this is all the inputs that I have in this particular setup. And the input that we're using is this one right here, the HD Pro Webcam C920. And we're doing that on overlay channel 2. So I will click this button again, and it takes me away. Now I just click this button right here, and this is for our football scoreboard. And this is actually a scoreboard that I put together for a client. And I push it once, it comes on. I push it again, it goes away. And as you can probably already imagine, it's the same overlay input X. Anytime we use this overlay input X, it allows us to use it as a toggle. So again, what we did is we chose the input, which is this football 2024 that I put together for this tutorial, and we have it on overlay channel 2. So we'll click it again, it comes in, and we click it again, and it goes away. So let's bring back our original graphic again. Our second thing that we're going to cover is the set color commands. Now there's one thing that we have to remember with the set color command is in order to do this, as the tutorial that I did explained, we actually had to add a function into vMix UTC. So I would suggest that you watch that tutorial. It's very simple to do. In that tutorial, there's a link to the folder that has the new functions in it. All you have to do is download that folder and replace that folder you download with the function folder that comes in vMix UTC originally, and you'll be able to do these next things with set color. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And this first one here is home team background. So this is going to change the color of our home team background. So we're going to have to bring this in, and you can see right now the home team background color is red. But you want to be able to change these for each particular game that you do, and it's very easy to do with this command. So we're going to go to the cog, and we're going to look, and it says set color. And then what we do is we chose the input, and then the color we're going to change it to is this color right here, which is the hexadecimal color for orange. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and I'm going to click the home team background color, and you can see where that background color changes to orange. And I made another button here which has the hexadecimal color in it that we're using for red, and it's going to change the background color of the home team back to red when I push this button. And you can see that it does. So let's take a look behind this button. What we did is we used the set color command. Again, we used the same input for our football graphic that we have right here. And then under the color, we put the hexadecimal color in for the background color that is red. And once again, let's look at this button. Everything is going to be the same except the color, and this is the hexadecimal color for orange. So let's go ahead and toggle that again very quickly. We'll click on it, it turns orange. We click on it again, and it takes it back to that red color. Now, this button that we're going to use right here, we're actually using this one for the timeouts. And when I click on home timeout 1, you can see where the timeout goes away. So that means the home team has used one of their timeouts. I kind of like that effect right there. It kind of leaves that little bit darker space there so you can see where the timeout was but has been removed. And then when I click this button right here, this is going to reset that timeout. It brings it back. So how are we doing that? Well, we're doing that pretty much the same way. We're using the set color. Again, we're using the same input, which is our football scoreboard. We're using a different index this time. This is index 6. And then the color we're changing it to is this one right here, which is white. That is for the reset. When we change the color initially, let's look at this one right here. When we initially take that timeout away, we click the button and it changes it to this color right here, which is the same color as the home team background. So we'll go ahead and do that one more time very quickly. Home team timeout, it's gone away. We need to reset that timeout. We click this button and it comes back. So we've done the overlay commands, we've done the set color commands, and now we're going to look at the set visible command. The set visible command is very handy because it allows us to turn things off and on, hence setting the visibility of it. So let's go ahead and take this away, and then we're going to look right here behind this button. The command that we're using is set X visible. And again, same thing as when we were using overlay input X. When we use this command set X visible, it allows us to use it as a toggle as well. There are different commands here. There's set X visible off, set X visible on, but we're using set X visible, and that gives us that toggle function. Again, we're using the same input, the football scoreboard graphic. We're using a different index, an index of 2. And let's look and see at this. So what we're doing is an image. An image is synonymous with source. And so if we come down here to source number 2, we see that is the home logo. So what we're going to be doing with this button is we're going to be turning the home logo off and on. So let's see what happens here. Let's go ahead and hit home logo. It takes it away, and we'll go ahead and click it again, and it brings it back. This opens up a whole world of what you can do by just using this command right here, this set visible command. It allows you to turn things off and on, and then when we combine that with this next command with the timer, it's going to allow us to do even more. So what I've got going on right here with this one is we're going to put a flag on the play. So if I click this button right here, you can see where the down and distance goes away. You can see where flag comes out, and it's going to stay for 7 seconds. Then it goes away and it brings the down and distance back. Well, let's click it one more time because there's something else I want to show you. When I click on this button, you can see this green halo around this button, and that means we have script that's running in the background. After that timer function goes for 7 seconds, it brings those elements back on. Or it brings the down and distance back on, and it takes the flag text off. So let's take a look behind this button. So we had to click on this 5 times. Remember, I said the first time you click on it, it comes up number 0. So this is the first command, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Our first command is we're setting X visible off, and that's going to be for our down and distance text. So let's take a look under the titles. And again, we're dealing with text. So we have text index number 1, and that's D&D, or down and distance text. So the very first thing is going to set visible off on down and distance. The second part is set X visible on, and this is on index 0, which is also a text. Let's click on the titles. And 0, right here, text 0, is our flag text. So it's going to bring our flag text on. The next command is a timer command, and that timer command is going to run for 7,000 milliseconds, or 7 seconds. And then after it does its thing, then it's going to set X visible off on text 0. Again, text 0 is flag text. And it's going to set X visible on for text 1. And again, text 1 is the down and distance text. So that's all that it's doing. We're using that set visible command to turn things off and on, and then we've added a timer function in with it, and that's what gives us the automation. So let's go ahead and click it one more time. Again, the flag comes in, down and distance goes away, it stays on for 7 seconds. Flag text goes away, and it brings our down and distance back. So now we've talked about overlay commands, set color commands, set visible commands. We've demonstrated the timer command, and the last one is the data source command. Well, as I said, data sources allows you to bring large volumes of data into your vMix production and into your graphics. So I made a simple graphic right here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that in on overlay channel 3. And what this is, it's a baseball graphic, and it's going to bring in the player's number, it's going to bring in the player's name, and it's going to bring in the player's position. I'll go ahead and show you this right here. If we look right down here where I'm pointing, you can see the hamburger menu is highlighted in red. So when I click on the hamburger menu and then click Data Sources Manager, you can see that we have an Excel spreadsheet here. And you can see the information that we have in here. Now, when I bring this in, I want to make sure that I check this first box right here that says use first row as column names. And the reason that I do that is it brings in this information up here. It brings in on my spreadsheet, it brings in the player's name, the number, and the position. And this comes in very handy when we're mapping the graphics. And I have several tutorials for that as well. They're very easy to follow, but I think you'll find those very informative as well. So when we're using a spreadsheet, we need to have a place to start. And that's where this first button comes in right here where it says first row. What we want to do is we want to be able to take our first row as a starting point. So I always put this command in right here. Well, let me go ahead and show you this. And you can see under settings where we have this Excel \CSV. Well, the reason I show you this is because we're going to have to use some of this information in our command that we're using in vMix UTC. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel here. And I want you to see under table, we have we have three different sheets here. We have master, we have roster, and we have color. The one that we're going to be working with today is the master. The reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because we also have to designate in vMix UTC which table we're using. So let's go ahead and click out of this, and then we're going to come over here to our vMix UTC again. We're going to click on this button that says first row and click on the cog and take a look at it. So what we've done is the command that we've used, and there are several data source commands, all these data source functions here, data source auto next off, auto next on, next row, previous row, and select row. These are the three commands that we're going to use. This first one we're going to use is data source select row. And we put in row 0. 0 is in vMix is considered row number 1. So when I click this button, it's going to take us to the very first row in our spreadsheet. Let's bring this back in, and let's bring our data source back in. And I'm going to move us down in the data source manually. But when I click that button that says first row, watch what happens. It automatically takes us to the very first row in that data source. So the next button I'm going to click is next row. And when I click next row, you can see where it goes down one row every time I click next. And I'll show you that in just a moment. These are the buttons that I was talking about. This was the data source first row button. And when I clicked on that, it took us to the top of that data source. And then this next row button takes us down one line each time I click on it. And then this previous row takes us up one line every time that I click on it. So let's take a look behind the second one. Again, we're using a data source command, data source next row, and then we're using the exact same name and table that we used in the first one, Excel, CSV, no, Excel \CSV, master, and this is case sensitive. This has to be the exact same way that it's shown in the table. So it's all caps in the table, so it has to be all caps in this command line right here. This was data source select row. Again, row 0 is designated row 1 in vMix. And then we used Excel \CSV again with a comma, and then master all capitalized. This last button that we used right here is previous row. Let's click on that cog. Again, data source previous row, Excel \CSV, master, and again, master is all capital. And just to prove my point, I'm going to go back to this and bring our data source back up. And you can see right here under table where it says master, and it shows master as all capitals. That's the reason why when we're using the command, we have that in all caps as well. And then again, this is where we got the first part of that from, name and table. Those are the two pieces of information in vMix UTC. The name Excel \CSV, and then comma, and then master all capital. So let's go ahead and look at this graphic. As I move up and down in that list using these buttons over here, you'll see the information in our graphic change. So let's go next row, goes to Hal Hall, Greg Gregory, Lou Lewis, and Lou Lewis must be the very last entry. So let's start moving back up. It gives us Greg Gregory, Hal Hall, Sam Samuels, Doug Douglas, Dave Davis, Kel Kelly, Aaron Aarons, Vic Victor, and Steve Stevens. So that's going to conclude our tutorial today, where we talked about vMix UTC, and we kind of went back to the beginning and answered some of those questions that I've been getting along the way about how some of my vMix UTC setups are put together. And basically by just utilizing these 5 different commands, we're able to pretty much do anything that we need to do within our production. This was vMix UTC Made Easy, episode 108, and this was a beginner's guide to vMix UTC. If you like what we're doing here on One Man Stream, please give us a thumbs up and a like. Make sure you do subscribe so that you'll be alerted as soon as new videos are posted. And if you get an opportunity, please stop by our online store and more. That's at onemanstream.com. That's where we have all the graphics that we've done throughout this One Man Stream journey so far, along with many of the vMix UTC controllers as well. As always, thank you.